On this episode of Truth Be Trolled, Dave Pino uses astral projection to find a missing G.I. Joe toy.
It's a good one.
Come and take a ride.
You know, one thing I wanted to talk about too is, has anybody ever had a dream come to fruition, like in real life? So like you dreamt something in your dream, and then like decades later, you're like, whoa, I dreamt that.
Premonition?
Is that what that's called? A premonition?
Yeah. Well,
Is a premonition coming from a dream?
No, it's a vision, whether it be a dream or a meditation, or it's imagery just comes to you somehow, but that ends up coming to fruition. That's a premonition.
Well, it's a manifestation.
Okay. Manifestation, okay, because I used to have crazy dreams in this house. Didn't you used to have crazy dreams?
You and I had the same dream.
About Casper the Friendly Ghost?
About Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Nuh-uh.
Does that mean you were both watching Casper for like 12 hours in front of that fucked up old TV?
There was one just like this in that house in the living room. We are latchkey kids. We would watch all the time. But the fucked up thing is that when you walk up into this part of the house, that is the kitchen. And in the kitchen, there's a long hallway that goes through the dining room, and then it stays narrow going into the living room. And then that's the front of the house where when you open the front door of the house, it has the staircase that goes up to the bedrooms. And I remember saying that I had a dream where I heard my mother they always get mad. They're like, you guys go up to bed. Like any other parent was like, go to bed, go to bed. And we would be sitting either in the kitchen watching the TV that was on the counter or the living room. But I remember having a dream where I woke up. I didn't go upstairs to bed like I was told. And I heard a clock go boom, boom, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "This is like it's late. I gotta go." So I was going to go down the hall, and there was a ghost at the end of the hall. Right?
What did it look like?
It looked like Casper the Friendly Ghost, but it didn't feel friendly at that.
Like moment. like an actual white bed sheet, or just like a white blob, amorphous sort of blob, or literally Casper, like a cartoon.
Yeah, I think
it didn't like a cartoon. It had like a frosty glow. It was kind of like Slimer.
Yeah,
you
like that.
Concur?
Yeah, I do remember having those dreams.
Yeah, I don't know
Casper.
what the hell. And I remember saying it out loud, and you were like, "Dude, I dreamt about Casper too," and I was like, "What?" And then you explained what you saw, and it was very similar.
Yeah. But I also had dreams of things that didn't exist at the time, like these, like Max Headroom. Like he didn't exist when we were little kids and we were like 5 years old, did he?
Not at that time, no.
This whole like digital, you know how there's like this when they have video games, like they're like, oh, look how realistic it is, and it's like, you know, just like block letter people or whatever. But those type of I don't know, AI or digital graphics of people were just like walking around everywhere, and as soon as they saw me, they would get so freaking scared and they'd run away. And I'm like, what the heck was that?
I know what this is.
Minecraft?
We've mentioned Dave's numerology before. He's what you call a 22. He's very big picture oriented. Those 22 people can navigate the matrix a little better than others. I think you were creeping on something that you weren't supposed to be creeping on, and they were legit scared because they knew you were there. But like, you know what remote viewing is? Maybe you were doing some of that shit.
Maybe.
Or astral projection.
Yeah, same type of shit. It is fucking real.
Well,
dude.
I'll never forget, I lost a G.I. Joe, and I was like, I can't find my G.I. Joe. And I'm like bugging my brother, I'm bugging him, where's my G.I. Joe? Where's my G.I. Joe? And I was like, you know what? I really want this G.I. Joe. I was like, I gotta find it. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna use my senses and I'm gonna find it. So I started following like nature and the wind. So I'm just like a little kid walking around back here, and I'm like, all right, the wind's blowing and it's going this way, so I gotta walk this way. And then I would walk that way, and then I'd be like, all right, now the wind's blowing this way, so I'm gonna walk this way. So I'll walk in that direction. And then a leaf fell off of one of the trees, and I was like watching the leaf just do this, and then it fell down on the ground. I was like, all right, here's the leaf. So I picked up the leaf, and there was the G.I. Joe.
Fucking A, I believe you.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying,
bit,
though. And by the way, my wife, you lose something. I told her she should have a business where she charges people $5 to find some stuff. Hey, I lost my keys. Oh, yeah, they're in the backyard. I don't know why. You left them on the patio. Like, it doesn't matter what it is or where it is. She fucking finds it in seconds. It's weird. But that's crazy. And I just believe that those, like, 22 people, those numerology 22 base people that are like the master builders. They even put it in the fucking Lego movie, like Real Weird Business. But when you could do that all the time, like you just chose to play music, you know what I'm saying? Like you could be like some fucking divining rod for information. Who knows, dude?
Well, I have to think about everything that could potentially happen in order so that it doesn't happen. But I have to think about everything because things like really crazy things happen, and I say to myself, I never would have thought that would have happened. That's why it happened, because I never thought of it. I never thought of the possibility.
Well, so you're saying reverse manifestation, actually. Like, I'm going to think about this cop pulling me over, therefore
it won't happen. I already thought of it. I already thought, like, the universe can't spring up a surprise on me.
Otherwise, you would have wasted that, like, wish on, you could have had $1 million, but you just made it so that person over there didn't come talk to me.
Right.
Well, you know what I mean? Or
that person going to come talk to me is going to come talk to me.
Schrodinger's cat, though, like, all possibilities still exist.
Right.
So
yeah, I think about sometimes I think about that and how crazy that concept is.
You just tune into the possibility that you prefer.
And I love technology.
It's science.
I love all this stuff like cameras, the microphones. I love the physics behind all of it because, I mean, like sound, light, everything. It's all the same. Yeah, it's all like vibration. It's all energy. It's all the frequency. With sound, like you crank it up past 20,000 hertz. And you go way, way, way up, it starts to become light after a while.
For sure. I saw a video yesterday where somebody made sound 3-dimensional. You know what somatics is? Like somatics, like you put the like sand on the speaker and
and it
makes a shape.
And it makes perfect crop circles.
Yeah, it makes wild ass shit. But this process they had put sound, like light to sound somehow, and it showed sound in a 3-dimensional way, and it was like this weird tube that was like spinning. It was cool as shit.
Oh, it was like plasma in a vacuum or something.
I'm not smart enough to know what that looks like, but if it was super cool and fucking highly unusual, yeah, it was like that.
Well, like perfect harmonic resonance is something that I freaking love. When I learned that about perfect harmonic resonance, I was like, that is the coolest freaking thing ever. Basically, it's like when the fat lady, the opera singer, sings,
breaks the wine glass,
and she sings just the exact pitch that the wine glass has.
Is that because is it the matching the frequency of the glass?
Yeah, because it matches the frequency and makes it vibrate.
Are the waves like the frequency waves lining up, or are they?
It's actually, I believe, slay me if I'm wrong, I believe it's because they are perfect and then they're imperfect, and that little micro imbalance is the thing I think that's doing it.
And if it's the same, and if you're singing the same pitch, it'll like, for instance, on a guitar, like you got 2 E strings, and you pluck one really hard, the other one starts to vibrate. But not the other ones, not like G string, D string.
Vibration.
Sympathetic vibration, yeah.
So think about it like this. If a fat lady can break a glass with her voice, are you telling me that some multi-trillion-dollar government can't light some land on fire with sound, a fucking satellite or something?
Right. Or move 1,000-ton blocks of stone around to build.
There's a story
pyramids.
going around now that there's some like arsonists that lit the fires in the Palisades in California.
Well, no, there was video of a lot of arsonists, because once it started happening, a lot of the kooks started adding to it.
The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.
You can't have arsonists without arse. Fucking dumb. But I wanted to go down a strange little path that I thought was interesting, because this was mentioned super casually last week that Ben's had fucking alien encounters.
Something
Gee,
happened.
And we talk about this, and this is like the kind of the basis of the shit we goof around on. And after all of that shit, he's like, yeah, well, I had one too. I'm like, huh? How do you mention it? Like, how did you not open the door and say, guys, guess what?
I hadn't thought about it in a long time.
What year was it?
It was a long time ago. It was 2010-ish, maybe.
It wasn't that long.
You were working
ago.
at the shop.
Yeah, no, I was working at the shop, maybe 2008. It was shortly after I started working. This was well before I was really, really deep into this kind of stuff. I was curious, but I wasn't really that interested. And it was during a time where I was smoking a lot of weed, and I think because I was high, I wouldn't dream. I didn't have dreams for years and years and years.
That's true, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was just this one night where I had to go from not dreaming at all to having the most vivid, lucid dream I've ever. It feels more like a memory than a dream. And in the dream, I was driving my vehicle at the time, was like a Subaru Impreza or whatever, with a sunroof or whatever. And I was on a highway out near where I grew up. I think it's Route 202. It's kind of a, 2-lane, windy, people drive too fast on it through the woods. And I was on that road. It was night and I was driving and I remember seeing like 3 orange lights, like a triangle up ahead. And I was like, oh shit, there it is. I'm finally seeing one of these things. And I was excited and intrigued. And then something happened where I started to feel really, really uncomfortable about it. Like it was a threat, and realized that it was honing in on me. Whatever it was actually coming closer. So I pulled over alongside the road to turn around and maybe try to outrun it. And as I pulled over, for whatever reason, I stopped the car and kind of just froze in fear, because at that moment I just knew that it was, whatever it was right fucking above me. Now it's right above me. The next thing I know, I'm looking down at my Subaru from 10 feet, 13, 14 feet, being lifted above the Subaru. And I remember thinking, I should be fucking terrified right now. But the terror that I felt while I was still in my car and this thing was above me was now completely gone. And I'm looking down at my car going, oh fuck, I left my sunroof open. And
couldn't have been that scared.
And the light was on inside my car. I was like, oh god damn it, I didn't lock my doors and my sunroof was open. That was my concern. Next thing I know, I'm on
typical Subaru owner.
Right. Next thing I know, I'm on board, whatever. I don't remember seeing what the craft looked like, but the room was completely barren, like dull metal. No corners. It was just kind of, like if you set up a backdrop for a shoot, just like white sheet. There was no corners, no anything. And then there was this like smooth mound in the middle of the room. And then I remember there were 3 humans, and they were like 3, like good looking people. There was like maybe like 20 something a woman, a 20 something male that looked kind of like Chris Evans. There was an older gentleman in the middle of them that looked like Mitt Romney. Looked just like Mitt Romney. He's kind of like
he was an alien.
No shit.
Like he had like, like the perfect little white patches right here. It was fucking crazy. And they were all wearing like the same jumpsuit. I can't remember what color it was, but I just started having a conversation with these people. Like, I think because I wasn't intrigued by the way they looked, because they looked human, I was immediately interested in the tech. Like, what is this ship? How does this work? And so I was having a conversation with them, asking them questions about the tech and the ship. And then I realized my mouth wasn't moving. I was having a very easy conversation back and forth, but it was all
telepathy.
Yeah, it was all telepathic. Like my mouth wasn't moving, but I could hear their voice in my head. It was nuts.
What did their voices sound like?
I don't remember. Mine?
Okay.
Maybe it was like, it was my own voice, but I was receiving information from the older gentleman. So I remember asking, how do you fly this craft? How does it work? How do you control it? I don't see any controls. And he goes, you know how? I'm like, I do know how. You're right. You just think it. You don't push buttons or use a steering wheel. Just the same way that I was communicating with them is the same way you would control the vehicle. It's a telepathic control. You just think what you want it to do. And so they were like, go ahead. you know how it works. Go ahead. So I just remember thinking, all right, I want to go really fast or far, in whatever direction. And it happened, and it was just sort of instantaneously, I don't know, 1,000 miles away. And then I remember my first thought was, wow, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel inertia or any movement whatsoever. And they were like, we don't travel the same way that humans currently travel, where it's like, you're moving through space against elements or whatever. It's a propulsion that pushes you through gravity and all that. They actually like the way they travel is like they sort of like fast forward or rewind time around the craft. So they're like, right now in this moment of time, this is where we're located. If you want to go over there, then you just sort of jump to that point of time where you now are located over there. So it's like, it's more of like a manipulation of time rather than actual physically moving through space. It was crazy the way they explained it. And then
it can only be that way, by the way, because you can't, no biological being's going to cross the universe.
No, you can't physically, unless you in physical form, you can't move at the speed of light or anywhere near that. You have to,
still, nobody's got 100 million years to get to wherever they filmed Star Wars.
No.
Keep going, dude. This
Planet
is crazy.
Tatooine.
And then I was interested in I was more interested in the tech. I was like, well, how does the ship run? What do you use for fuel? And they immediately said water. I'm like, water? Jesus, that makes sense. Basically like a half a cup of water and a little bit, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe a little bit of like mercury or something. And there was some sort of like gyroscope. They called it a hydroelectric magnetic reactor. So they were saying this crazy technical shit to me in this dream. Hydroelectromagnetic react, something like that. Where it's like a little bit of water and it's just spun in a way that just creates this perpetual, like endless clean energy. And every once in a while, they just need to replace a half a cup of water.
Some stuff like that's been done on Earth with these micro massive explosions with water.
Yeah.
I've heard other stories that are similar as far as the communication. And one thing that was interesting in the story I heard, once these beings put that thought into his head, it's still there like years later as if he was staring at a computer screen. Do you have any of that?
I just took the technical information is what stuck with me, and visually I can still, is that what you mean? Well,
kind of, for context, in this story that I heard, the person who met the being was looking for a way to fix the craft and needed a certain part. You know the story I'm talking about? And then basically planted the schematics in the dude's head, and he can't unsee them or unknow them now. No.
Yeah, no, nothing like that.
That's interesting, but you were recalling with such memory. I was like, is this similar?
Well, the information was just so specific and quick, and I felt so comfortable, because they looked human, but I knew that they were from somewhere else.
Yeah,
obviously.
They were wearing the rubber suit like Biden.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. I don't know.
And did you wake up with any kind of like physical remnants?
I feel like I did. Now, this is a long time ago, so I don't want to make anything up, but I feel like I did have a marking on me somewhere, like in my inner bicep. It was like three, like a triangle, 3 dots that looked like maybe puncture wounds or something. Could have been bug bites.
I was going to say, it sounds to me like bed bugs.
Well, yeah. I've had a triangle of 3 dots in the sky. You can say follow you or whatever. I've noticed it my entire life. I've showed it to many people. My wife, if I said the triangle in the sky, she knows what I'm talking about. Yep. And they blink 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And they're way out there, but that's something like, when I go to my father's place up in the woods in Maine, it's like, it's almost as if it's like I could touch it. It's so close, but same thing. 3 blinking lights, triangle.
Oh, I got to see those in detail with, funny enough, Dave Norton. We were driving back from work from Cambridge. We were heading back to Waltham on the Pike, and it was, I would say, November, maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock. So it was dark, and we're just driving home, and I remember seeing a red light or two that kind of was flickering a little bit. And at first I'm like, thought it was just the top of radio tower or whatever. And then I saw a third one. And as I focused my vision a little bit more, I could see that it was well above the tree line, and there was no shadow of a crane or tower or anything. So I could, whatever they were in the sky. I pointed it out to Dave, and very quickly we realized that it was something fucking weird, or the orange orbs that were kind of just moving slowly. And it got to a point where it looked like they were pretty close, like maybe a couple thousand feet up, because it was close enough that we could see that whatever it was, it looked like a ball of fire.
Dude, that's the shit that I saw.
Yeah, 3 balls of fire. And the way I described the fire is, it was like, in Backdraft, when the ceiling, it's like, almost looks like plasma. It's real smooth waves of fire.
Bro, that is what me and my son Danny saw. Didn't I tell you about this shit?
You did. And it had like the ripples that were moving down around the orb. The ripples were going downward around.
I only saw one.
Yeah.
So I wonder, because I told you it was coming down in my neighborhood, and it was very big for my neighborhood. And as I told you before, if that was a meteor, everyone would know about it. That's how big it was, so close. But it sounds like what you're saying. I didn't see another 2 of them though, and I'm wondering if it was just below or part of a different tree line. Like it was close.
It seems like they usually come in 3s, but they're oftentimes just a single orb. But I freaked out, man. I was we rolled the sunroof back. I was fucking standing up out of the car on the Pike, and we couldn't really pull over.
You got out of the car on the Pike?
Out of the sunroof. I was just no.
Jesus, bro.
Yeah. But and I didn't even honestly, I didn't even try to record it with my phone, because I thought if I looked away from it, I was going to miss something.
Classic UFO mistake.
Well, I was less excited about seeing this because I had seen so many videos of it. I was like, oh, it's that. I was more excited.
When was this bit?
When was this?
This particular one, yeah. Like a while after the other one?
Oh, yeah, a while after. At this point, I was already the UFO guy.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled to finally be seeing it in person, but I was more excited, and I was happier about the fact that I was with a credible witness. You know what I mean? Dave Norton was not the UFO guy. So if I had been by myself, I don't know. I don't think it would, oh, Ben saw. Yeah, sure.
I think they have the technology. Like, if you try to record something, I feel like this, the aliens or whatever.
That's why they're all blurry.
That's why they're all blurry, man.
On the planes, every time I fly back and forth, sometimes I would see orbs, or I would see those cigarette, planes or whatever they are, and I'd be like, whoa, I'm gonna film this. So I pull out my camera and I film it, and I'm like, I can't wait to show Ben. And then I remember trying to show you, I looked at the camera, I was like, they're not there. Like, I filmed it.
So many frames. I mean, if it's really moving that fast, it is perhaps able to escape 24 frames. Maybe. I'm not trying to, just a little devil's advocate, but there is some crazy footage from pilots out there lately. I don't know if you've seen that shit. Yeah, so me and my son were driving down our neighborhood, and all of a sudden a giant, flaming, smooth, crazy large ball of flames landed what appeared to be in the next neighborhood. Like
at the speed of a meteorite?
No,
or like a
it
plane
was not going.
speed?
Didn't seem like terminal velocity. It seemed it wasn't slow motion, but it wasn't fast. And sometimes you'll see stuff falling from the sky, and it is at terminal velocity. It still doesn't seem fast. So
yeah, but it has a tail.
Yeah,
this didn't have a tail?
feel like it may have had a tail, but it was probably just a little bit of smoke or something. I don't think there was much of a tail. It was really, the interesting thing was it was so close that it lit up the whole fucking neighborhood in an instant. Like me and my son, I was like, you see that? He was staring. We were like, whoa. And then we were like, cool. And then we went back to our conversation because in our minds it was a meteor. And, and what's the big deal? But no, man, there's no way it was, because I'm telling you, it was so big. It was so close. Like, it would have shook the car.
Yeah.
But no, it didn't shake the car.
No, didn't. Nothing. Never heard a word of it. I mean, I get a fucking ring cam announcement if there's a kitty cat in someone's yard that doesn't belong. Never mind a goddamn.
What year was it?
This was only like 2 or 3 years ago. This was definitely before the New Jersey drone horse shit.
Did you go online and see if anyone had?
I didn't put anything into it, to be honest with you, just because I was fairly convinced it was a meteor.
Yeah, but even still, it would have been cool to see if somebody captured it on a Ring camera.
No, that is interesting, and I'm going to actually bring that up with my son again. After
we saw the 3 orbs on the Pike, we definitely researched it the next day, and I think we found a couple of reports of sightings.
Yeah, it's all real. People aren't lying. So few of the people that report this stuff are full of shit, and they're just like psychopaths. But the regular people, they don't want to be bothered with this shit. They don't want people thinking they're weird. Like, they're telling you for a reason. It's not to be cool or fucking whatever. So how many millions got to do it? Maybe it's mass hypnosis. Maybe, I don't know, dude. Oh, I wanted to go back real quick. I had a question. Why did you preface this with saying, dream? Because, I mean, do you think it was a dream? Actually, let me back up a little bit. Do you think you were actually driving, or do you think that this kind of happened from your bedroom, but it was still real?
Yes. To all of that.
That's kind of wild. So you were like in a daydream while driving, maybe?
So from the way I experienced it was, I went to bed, this happened, and then I woke up in the same bed. So it would seem like it was a dream. However, it felt so different than from a dream. I'm not saying it wasn't a dream. I don't know what the fuck it was. I'm willing to admit that I don't know. It stuck. It felt different than any dream I've ever had. It felt more like a memory, and it just stayed with me well over a decade now. And the information in it was so specific. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this was before I got into any of the alien stuff. But because the information was so specific, like the science that they were trying to explain, the way they travel from one point in time to another point in time, they're not actually physically moving. They just exist in one point in time, and the hydroelectromagnetic reactor and what. Now, well, hold on.
That's the part you keep saying that was such.
Dude, the information, and I'm forgetting stuff too. There was a whole bunch of other shit, but I haven't thought about this in so long. The information was so specific that it made me interested in looking into it. And that's when, after the dream, that's when I learned about Bob Lazar. Oh, I just remembered another thing.
Here it comes.
Well,
talking to you, Mike.
I can't hear you. One of the other things when I was on the craft that I noticed and was intrigued by. Oh, that's right. Fuck. I haven't thought about this in so long. When I was on board, there was a moment before when they said, you know how to drive this thing. You already know how. And I'm like, oh yeah, I do. Before we actually moved or whatever, all of the walls and everything went transparent, completely transparent. Almost like I was now I'm just standing in the air, 80
Wonder Woman's plane.
80 feet, right? 80 feet above my car, and I'm just standing in the air, but I still could feel, it felt like I was in a room. So I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't panic because I'm terrified of heights. I still felt secure, like I was in a room, but the wall, everything was completely transparent. So I could look down and see, oh fuck, there's my car, but I wasn't worried about my car at that point. But a few years after this dream happened, is when I discovered like the Bob Lazar story. And I was listening, I think I was tattooing one day. I had an ear pod and I was listening to Bob Lazar talk about one of the craft that he was allowed to go on board and to reverse engineer, allegedly. And he was describing the inside of this craft like fucking verbatim what I had experienced. He was saying that some of the walls would go transparent. He described the look of it, the polished or, sort of dull metal, smooth surfaces, and the mound in the middle. And I could have sworn he said something about similar, engine technology or whatever. And I just got goosebumps. The hair, I'm tattooing and I'm like, what the fuck? 'Cause I hadn't talked about what I thought was just a crazy dream. And then I'm hearing this Bob Lazar guy explain to me the same description of the inside of this craft that I had experienced in a dream. And I'm tattooing, and the person was like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I think I might have been abducted, or got to take a UFO for a spin."
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
What a fucking story.
Just what I experienced, what it was, who knows? But it set me down a path of being, super interested in that shit.
It got to the point where I felt like, all right, Ben, enough.
Yeah,
Like,
no, totally. It can. Once you see behind the curtain, or feel like you've seen something behind the curtain that you weren't supposed to see, you get overwhelmed with a sense of excitement and passion. You just want to share it, and it's like you forget for a minute that everybody else is dealing with real life, like paying bills or being served. That shit sucks. So it's like nobody's got time to listen to your alien shit. Nobody cares.
It's the same with a spiritual awakening when you want to tell people about the amazing things happening to you, or religion, or even politics. Like the rest of the world doesn't give a fuck like you do, and they don't understand like you do.
But there's just so much shit designed, engineered to keep us in this frequency of constant stress and panic. And fuck, what am I going to do now? How am I going to pay this bill? Jesus Christ, I got to go to court. It's just like, how do you have time to even care about another solar system?
Well, that's what they